Here.
Cohen? Yes. Markham? Mueller? Here. Ogalla? Here. Traynere?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. And Julie, will you read us the pledge?
Good morning, everyone.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, there is no comma in that phrase. Microphones are doing their thing. They will eventually correct themselves. Happy belated Veterans Day, everyone. Hope you had a good time yesterday. I saw there was quite the ceremony here in Joliet at the Rialto. We do our own little thing in Bolingbrook. Okay, there we go. So the first thing we have is approval of minutes from October 8th, 2019. Can I get a motion?
Move.
Second.
And before I ask for a vote in favor, I want to point out that in the motion, or in the minutes from our last meeting, we asked that the issue of the insulin be taken up at the executive committee. And it wasn't. I need to know what's my responsibility. Do I need to follow up anytime we have something that we ask another committee or another person to do? Is that my responsibility?
That's staff's oversight.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to make sure we get things done properly.
Is the state voting on that now?
Pardon? They already voted on it. It already passed.
Yeah.
I don't think the governor signed it yet, but it did pass. Yeah. Okay. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Okay, and we have a whole slew of legislative reports because we had 5 weeks since our last committee. Was there anything anybody had a question about? I know Mimi, you had a question about an issue having to do with immigration?
Yeah, there was an executive order passed. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry. There was an executive order passed at the end of September. I don't want to misquote it.
State executive?
No, federal.
Okay.
That grants some, can you go on and let me find it
Yeah,
so I'm not
no, that's
wasting
cool.
time?
No, that's all right. Anybody else have anything out of the ISACO newsletter? Nothing?
Okay, so that means I should find it like right
No,
away.
that's okay. Take your time.
I mean, in short, the executive order gives it something along the lines of gives authority to state and local areas to determine whether or not and to what level they will accept refugees. And so I'm trying to ascertain who makes that decision at the state or local level about whether or not their jurisdiction can accept refugees and at what level. So
I've always been curious about that because I'll go to a community, like I was in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and they have this huge Hmong population there. Who the heck decided that that's where those refugees were going to go? You know what I mean? How does that
sometimes
happen?
that's a decision. Sometimes that's what some people refer to as chain migration. Once you get a couple families there, people know that there's a community there.
I don't know. I think these people were political refugees.
Yeah, but some of that was based on the local churches
Right.
going and saying we're going to take a group in.
Have we ever done that in
from
Will County?
the area.
Well, here's the, I found it.
Okay, I was trying to find it for you too.
In resettling refugees into American communities, it's the policy of the United States to cooperate and consult with state and local governments to take into account the preferences of state governments and to provide pathways to refugees to become self-sufficient. These policies support each other. Close cooperation with state and local governments ensures refugees are resettled in communities that are eager and equipped to support their successful integration in the American society and labor force. The President, has consulted with the Secretary of State and determined that with limited exceptions, the federal government, as an exercise of its broad discretion concerning refugee placement, should resettle refugees only in those jurisdictions in which both the state and local governments have consented to receive refugees under the Department of State's reception and placement program. It talks about 90 days within this order, which we're coming up to. The Secretary of State and the Secretary of Health and Human Services shall develop and implement a process to determine whether the state and locality both consent in writing to the resettlement of refugees within the state and locality before refugees are resettled within that state and locality under the program. So as a locality, I'd like to know who...
I'm in favor, let's do a letter.
Well, we need to know...
Oh, we'll take them. We need workers.
Who's making that decision?
Yeah.
And on what basis?
Right.
So we don't even know the answer to that. So that was my question.
Can Joe find that out? And
Maybe.
I said, you know, as a you should be able to dig into that and find out.
I can write him an email and ask.
Yeah, would you?
Yeah, Nick.
I'm not
Sorry.
sure.
And when they say locality, let me ask, because Nick's going to say something here. When they say locality, that's very vague. It could be a municipality, it could be a county, it could be a township.
Right.
How do we know what they're really talking about when they use that word? It's just vague to me, but go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure, even though it came through the Sacco newsletter, I'm not sure he's the best person because the Sacco was more focused on state government.
So will we contact somebody in J.B. Pritzker's administration?
Right, yeah, I mean, I guess, well, our federal lobbyist probably maybe better,
Okay.
or the, I mean, because the question about who is a good question, because I wonder if we're not home rule, if that changes our authority too.
Exactly, because there's all kinds of questions.
Yeah, and I don't know, I haven't seen the executive order, but whether or not my understanding, and it could be wrong, I have not studied this issue because it was never relevant to us before, is that the federal government decided where to settle refugees and the local governments had no say at all. And it was based, I think, just on where they could provide needs, and it might be
Probably through churches and so
local
forth.
government agencies agreed to sponsor that. So I am wondering if this isn't an additional layer, the federal government decides where they want to resettle them, but then they need to get approval of that local entity and state before they do it. I could be wrong.
Well, it would be good to know. Yes, Julie.
Jackie, one of the questions would be, we know a lot of these churches are actively bringing in refugees. They take collections at events for families they're bringing here. But one question is, who do they notify of these actions when they're bringing families here? Do they reach out to municipalities and let them know that
That's the question.
these members, I don't know that that's happening in
That's the
every
new
place.
executive order. They
And
have
that's
to.
one reason why this executive order was issued. But I know that this provides a strain on some areas in Wheaton. They have a very, very large Hmong population. And I do know in the schools, in several of the schools, they're not prepared and they don't really anticipate the children at the school. And then that creates sort of a crisis situation when they get new kids, they're not prepared, nobody speaks the language. So there is a disconnect here. I believe that this executive order is trying to address that because it does not help refugees to bring them here when we can't comfort them and provide their needs properly. So I would think that in Illinois, it would start with the governor's office. He is the person who should really be aware, informed, and figure out how to do this the right way.
What was the date on that one?
The executive order
Mhm.
date, I believe it was.
Or no, the ISACO letter. Was it the 15th or the
21st.
21st? Thank you. I will send an email to our contact in Pritzker's administration for our county, and also to Joe McCoy, just to see if he has any information.
And Jackie, could I also recommend that you send it to Brett Garson, who's our federal lobbyist. And then I would suggest you holding off on writing a letter until everybody knows on this committee what it actually stands for.
That's the question.
Right, but.
That is why I'm writing, to ask that question.
Okay.
Are you asking?
Jackie, are you asking the question about how the procedures are set up, or whether or not we're accepting refugees and how many? I guess to Maura's point,
I want to know what the meaning of the word locally is. That's what I want to know.
I want to know who's making the decision.
Yeah. That's, who is the local person making the decision? Is it a county? Is it a
No, we'll go
town?
from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay, all right, so we're going to talk to Brett, we're going to talk to Seiko, we're going to talk to Pritzker. Okay. And then we can go forward from there, once we know what the meaning is to the actual executive order. Okay, anything else in the newsletters you guys want to ask out?
Jackie, I would actually just bring up, I think it's been in the last two newsletters, I thought you might think of it as interesting. And I know it's a decision that needs to be made by January 1st, so we'd have to pass something in December. It has to do with elected officials who are also collecting an IMRF pension. There was an amendment, and I don't know that it was passed or not, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, regarding that if you do have elected officials that are collecting an IMRF pension, there are two ways now that you can continue to receive that as an elected official. Number one is you take a pay cut, and I understand, like, at first glance that sounds as if you would be same difference, but they don't say how much the pay cut is. And the second out sort of it is that you are officially a part-time employee. Now, I don't know how that affects Mary, you know, the stuff at the county. I see Jim, he's really eager, he wants to talk about this, which I knew he would. So I just wanted to make sure, Jackie, that you knew that that was also floating through on the veto session.
Yeah, I know, I missed that, in all honesty, and my activity on that bill has resulted in not a positive outcome thus far.
Well, I'm just saying,
And,
if we're going to take it up, and, you know, we want to be proactive as
We can't be, if they're gonna vote on it today, we're done. This isn't gonna go in
No,
front of
the county has to take action. That's what I'm saying, before January 1st. So, it's something, you know, to think about. We can talk to our local lobbyists about, but quite honestly, if it does pass, it would be a county decision, I believe.
Do you remember the bill number?
1698. It's in the November 4th.
Yeah, it's
More,
Yes.
why would they be considered a part-time employee?
And what does that have to do
That
with
is
anything?
not a question for me.
Do you have
Mary?
any suspicions? Or why?
But can I just say something then? They passed legislation taking county board members, IMRF, and said county board members are no longer eligible for IMRF. You know, I believe their reasoning was because they said we weren't even part-time employees, that we did not work enough hours to qualify for IMRF, which means they said we didn't even work 20 hours a week, which would have been part-time. So they basically didn't even put us part-time. That was the gist behind that legislation, to say that we weren't eligible because we didn't put in enough hours. So,
And Jim, this is not bringing back
Well, my point is
the
that-
pensions for county board members. What it is it's adjusting it because in the early session, as you know, they passed a bill that
Right.
you either choose your county board pay or your IMRF pension.
I understand, but they're saying we had to take action since we were part-time employees. To me, they already passed legislation that did that.
And this doesn't seem to clear any of that up, so I must have just blown right by it, because there's nothing here that says that what the part-time means.
It was in the it doesn't, and I'm sure there's a definition.
Just $600. You know, to be eligible for IMRF, you have to work at least $600.
Oh, we changed it to 1,000.
But, well,
But that's
I
what
know,
they asked
but
us to
I-
vote on before. That was what they asked us to
Yes.
vote on before, and asked us to keep track of our time, and we didn't vote on it, so it just went away.
Right.
So now we're gonna do this again.
No.
No.
If you are receiving an IMRF pension from somewhere else, I think, or even if you qualified from here and you are receiving it, and I'll have to ask Mary to clarify once the law is passed or whatnot, but, and you are an elected official, what it was saying in the early session was you can have your salary as the elected official, or you can keep collecting your IMRF pension.
Right.
That being said,
That's what we have right now.
correct. However, what we have right now, you are collecting your
But
paycheck.
the law has changed, and when I run, if I was to run for office again, I would have to make a choice.
And this is correcting, this is an amendment to that.
To try to correct.
And if you look in the very last news for the ASACO, I believe
To give a better explanation.
they cited it again. I'm not sure. I read it while we were on the trip, so I don't know 100% what the real details are and actually what the amendment will be when they pass it.
And
I
that's
think
what I'm saying.
honestly, I think it's up at 3 o'clock today, but I can double check.
Because this looked to be like the same thing that we already have.
No.
That's the way I read it.
Oh,
We've
but
seen
it's
someone
not.
cutting the salary.
What we had,
What happened before is that people who were an IMRF as a county board member could have stayed and putting and being part of IMRF. If we didn't do anything, then it ceased to exist.
Right.
So,
And the board would have to annually redo that every year. It was not something that you just did automatically. The board would have had to try to say it every year. Well, there gets to be a point where there's only a handful.
there's only a handful right now, I think,
I
right?
mean, well, and I might also point out that the state's attorney advised us not to vote on it because he felt there could be potential liability. We didn't have the authority to take county board members out.
if you were voting no, our advice was if you're going to vote against this, you're better off not voting at all.
Well, this was.
Right, and then anyone who came on new as new county board member, say Julie, because she came in after that, and Julie and Mimi and Meta and everyone else, they would not have the opportunity to become part of it. So that was that. This is a different thing, stating that somebody who has an IMRF from a different position, or even county board, would have their salary decreased by the amount, by some amount.
I really didn't see that in here, but
It is.
I will reach out to Martinez.
1698.
Yeah, no, I read it.
But that's
I
something
just-
that we have to, Jim mentioned that, we have to vote on every year. That's something that's gonna come before us again?
No.
I thought we were
That's the
done
old
with that.
one.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
old
that's
one.
over.
I know about her.
Okay, right, I thought so.
It's over. I'll reach out to State Senator Martinez or to Kathy Willis, the state rep, and ask some questions.
And if you want, you can put it on next month's agenda, and if necessary, or if that's what the board desires to vote on that, that's the will of the board. I want to make sure you're aware of it, because I don't want to miss the deadline.
I think we should put it on there.
So if we did nothing though, what happened? January is already going to effect.
Well,
So,
you would have to, in order to be eligible, you would have to either
take a pay cut of what denomination, I don't know, or be considered in the definition that Jackie's correct, and I don't have that definition as part-time. And if you don't do that, then you're going to have to choose, like
The
Jackie
pension
said.
system's.
The pension system's dead regardless.
Right.
What they're trying to
I
do
remember
is
that.
fix the situation where if you took your pension, you get no salary, or if you take your salary, you can't collect any of your pension.
Right.
They're trying to fix it to say, if you take the pension, you can take a percentage of your salary, and they're deciding on what percentage. So maybe you get to take half a salary if you take your full pension. And again, that only exists for those that already were in the program. The rest of us were out anyway.
Right.
Some of us are going to be out. Because I don't work for that kind of money for
There'll
nobody.
be lawsuits filed.
Yeah, there'll be lawsuits.
I think there'll be lawsuits. They discriminate against a very specific group in this, you know.
Yeah.
They didn't say state pension. You can collect the state pension, it's okay. They didn't exclude themselves.
No.
Sure.
And I'll go back to what I said before. You want to save the taxpayers' money, start pulling them dandelions out of your own damn backyard, stay the hell out of my yard.
Oh,
Coffee time.
They want to get rid of a pension, they should start with their own.
I don't disagree.
They don't need to touch mine. Work on their own.
Just for the record, are we done with that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been so mad and angry and done with that.
It looks to me like the resolution had to be passed prior to January 1st, 2019. So I don't think it's something that is giving us,
I didn't
That
think,
would backdate the law then.
they're trying to carve out an exception for someone somewhere, but it's.
yeah, they're playing this.
Yes, this is misprint.
Maybe
It
it's
says
probably a
January
typo.
2000, I don't think so.
You don't think so? You like roads
They
wrong.
find out how many their own are,
Yeah, this is, they're trying to,
Some of our supervisors.
That's what I heard.
they're trying to protect one of their own. I'm sure that's what it is. It has nothing to do with us. That's what I said. I blew right by it. I didn't see anything that made any sense. But Mimi, you were going to say something?
Yeah, the insulin bill has only passed the Senate, it has not passed the House. So
So we can ask again to put it on the executive committee agenda and send a
Well,
letter of support?
it'll be today, tomorrow,
There you go.
Thursday. So, but if anyone personally cares about it and wants to advocate, call your House representatives.
There you have it. Okay. All right, so nothing else on legislative reports? Mimi, anything? No? Okay. All right, then we're going to go to old business, discussion of the Child Advocacy Center funding. I think most people probably know, I think it passed in Finance Committee last week, although it hasn't passed the full budget, the CAC funding. It was originally said we were going to fund them at 250, but because there's no money in the budget anywhere enough to do the 250, we're going to do 103 or 150? 150. And so the question was, did we want to add this to the state agenda? Since they passed the law saying we need to have this organization, maybe they should kick in some money.
Jackie, my question is this money going towards that executive board? When we passed $150,000 for the CAC, is that just going to operations, or is any of that money going towards salaries?
I don't know where
The
exactly.
salaries are the same thing.
Yeah.
Well,
This is going to an operation.
We were told that grants pay the salaries.
Not
No.
totally. No, that's why they're doing fundraisers and they're short money. This is going to the operation. It's got nothing to do with
Right.
that.
Yeah. And we pay for their rent and
We provide a bill.
the building, the space, wherever they're at. Yeah, utilities and all of that, in addition to the 150. That's already in the budget, if I'm not mistaken. We don't have a budget.
It is,
person.
it's about 100, but it is, we do that, and it's about almost $150,000, so
Right,
in total, it would be 300,000,
right.
I guess.
Yeah. So the question was, do we want to lobby the state since they have
mandated that every county have one of these, that they contribute towards it. Put it on the state agenda.
Oh,
I don't see why not.
Sure.
Right?
I wonder what, from cannabis legal, what's gonna come in from cannabis legalization. They have their, the 3 Rs, the R3, renew, reinvest, forget the other R. That is gonna be bringing money into our hardest hit communities who are hardest hit by arrests and things like that. So I would assume an organization like the CAC that services a lot of our communities that are, you know, kind of overlaps with that, that maybe we'll be getting some
That might be a good place
dollars
for the
from
money
that
to
as
go.
well.
Yeah,
You know, I would encourage us to look at that.
yeah.
It still makes sense to put it in there, and wherever the money comes from.
Right.
Yeah.
Ken, there's your budget person right there.
Hey, Ken,
How you
speak
doing?
up.
Good.
It would make sense to, since we're talking, I think we're talking about mandates, rather than just one specific mandate. I mean, we're gonna put it on the agenda to be kind of, put them all out there. In addition to CAC, there's other ones out there. I believe, Jen?
Yeah, we definitely can, in the beginning, we said this, that, you know, obviously the county opposes any unfunded mandates. We then go on to talk about, you know, things that we want to advocate for. So I think the Children's Advocacy Center, I know there is a bill that I believe passed where they mandated that one county now has a pilot program. Mary, do you know which one that is by chance?
I think it might be Lake, but I could be wrong.
You might be right, but they did this, you know, and I don't know if there was money attached to that or not, but I think we
What
can,
kind of a pilot program?
ACAC, they don't have one.
How can they not have one when
Then
it's,
it's not Lake.
yeah. That
I
doesn't
think
make
it's a smaller county, yeah.
sense.
It's,
No, they're like almost the same size as us.
no, I don't believe it's
I
Lake.
think I must be
Lake is
mistaken.
bigger than.
Again,
Yeah,
I think it was in the Asako newsletter. I had a lot of time to read at the airport.
weather delay. Bird delay? I didn't hear about bird delay. At least you didn't slide off the runway. Drinking water, I swear I don't remember reading anything about CAC. Session, veto session. Was it in the veto session? Oh yeah, there it is, Lake County. Reestablish the CAC pilot program. The bill will be sponsored, but I don't know what that means. I mean, I thought every county had to have one of these.
They have,
That's what I read
every
before.
county has to have a board,
Yeah.
and that board has to decide how they are going to coordinate services for abused and neglected children, investigative services.
Okay.
Most of the larger counties have established children's advocacy centers, which the legislation authorizes, so that one person is doing those interviews, or a couple of specially trained interviewers are doing those interviews. That's what Will County has done. Lake County, I'm sure, has a CAC program. I'm thinking the pilot program has to do with something other than the interviews.
I just read
And
it here.
something more.
Yeah, it says it allowed a juror to donate his or her juror fees
Okay.
to the Lake County Children's Advocacy Center. And that is what the pilot program was. Apparently, it went away under some other piece of legislation or something, and now they want to allow them to reestablish it. And that's the juror, which is interesting because most employers, if they pay you for your jury time, they ask you to send the check to them because they are, in fact, paying you for the time that you're there. So I don't know how much money they actually collected through this donation program.
Be interesting to see, and if it was decent, it'd be great, because especially with our new courthouse, we'll be able to show jurors at one of the big screens. Like we can
What the
make
CAC does, a
about the
video?
CAC.
Yeah. So maybe we
Make it
could
clear.
add this to our list of things we want to ask the state for, that we would be included in this pilot program.
And I think the state's attorney is already sending a letter down to Will County to that. But more,
If Jim's going to send us a letter?
I'm not sure, I know they were just discussing it last week about Will County supporting having Will County added. How they were gonna go about that, I'm not entirely sure.
So
Well,
maybe you should get together
this-
with him and see what he's doing and we'll add it to that.
This is something that's going to be
Agenda.
decided in the veto session.
Newsletter is that in?
This is in the one for November 4th. This is the one I didn't read. It's been a busy week at my house, let me just say, 2 weeks, really crazy. So yeah, where did it go? I had it. Here it is. House Bill 392, Representative Mason from Gurnee and Senator Morrison out of Deerfield. And if they are really, they're already passed in the House, it requires Senate approval. If they're voting on that this week, clearly there's not much we're going to do, but we can certainly ask for it in the next one, unless leadership wants to send a letter today, which is certainly not up to me.
The rest of the veto session ends tomorrow, so.
Yeah, that's what I said, unless they want to send a letter today, there's not much I'm going to be doing about it. But I do think that it's a good idea, and maybe we could consider that as a potential funding source. Maybe some from the cannabis tax if we pass one. And, well, I know we have people that don't want the tax, so they don't want to help kids. Just kidding. So those are two potential funding areas, but we could also just ask for some money, just in general. I mean, it's an unfunded mandate, right? And we're against those.
Well, I mean, for the CAC,
Mm-hmm.
the mandate really is just to have an executive board. The mandate is to have.
But that's kind of pointless.
I know.
That's really, I mean, really pointless. Why would you ask people to donate their time to be on a board if you didn't intend to do something?
Well, the purpose of the board is to coordinate the services, to make sure that, you know, if something happens in Joliet, that if there were no big program, CAC, that Joliet is getting that child the proper, you know, victim service,
How could they do
victim
that?
sensitive interview, which is required.
How could they do that, though? Explain. I'm serious.
They
I don't.
would have someone on staff, or they would contract it out, period.
But how can they have someone on staff and contract it out if the board has no money?
Joliet would do that.
Yeah, it's
board
the
would-
agency. The agency is responsible for that. The police safety, you know.
So we have 30-some police departments who would be providing their own interviews.
So that is why we're asking them now to
That
contribute.
is why we are asking them to contribute, because we are.
It's really their
providing
responsibility.
interviewers for all of these municipalities, and for unincorporated Will County.
Which is shared.
And we're doing, yeah.
Okay, then I guess asking for those two things is probably good enough then. The jury pilot program, the jurors, and then potentially the, any tax money if we get some.
Yeah, and I think we'll have to look into the specifics of the bill, the pilot program. It may have other things attached to it.
Yeah, I just read
don't
the
know.
quick
Yeah.
synopsis,
Yeah.
so. Okay, all right. Anything else on the CAC? Yeah, Jim?
You know, yeah, sending letters is a little late, but we do have two lobbyists there in Springfield. And they've used it great.
One of them's sitting over here.
Okay. One's not in Springfield, one's here. But the point I'm making is
Mhm.
that, you know, that when we want to see about adding on, like, to that legislation for lake, you know, we have somebody down there.
I've been told very clearly, I do not speak for the county board.
Well,
So Jim, I can
but
address that.
This is a different, I'm not.
You're talking about our lobbyists advocating for us down in Springfield.
Correct, getting.
Right, and I spoke with,
legislation.
just so everyone knows, I spoke with Brent last week, Hassert, and he, I spoke to him a little bit about what was discussed at the first legislative agenda meeting, and we all, I think, agreed that we want to be more on offense as a county than defense, if you know what I mean, as an analogy. So, you know, we're going to try and be more proactive so we don't have to react when these bills are passed and we don't know what we're going to do with them. And so, he's 100% on board with that, willing to do it, and was eager to get started on next year,
Well, I want to
so.
point out, Jackie, it's not true. For legislative committee, it's always been treated a little different. But things change, somebody has to be a spokesman. So certainly, historically, this committee could act on legislation, of course, and leadership. It goes to leadership and act. So this committee can act without, full board vote. It's just a matter of this committee kind of agrees and starts the leadership and then action is taken. Is obviously, like now, there's change to this legislation at the last minute. We might want to respond to it. So I just want you to know that this committee has always been able to speak on behalf of the county board.
I've certainly not been informed of that. In fact, I've been disabused of that notion.
I'm informing you now that because
Well,
historically, we still have to go.
Who died to put you in charge, Jim?
We still have to go through leadership, don't get me
Right,
wrong.
and so, for example, Julie and Mimi both brought up the issue of burning, which I think we've heard almost every year. And the first step for us was, our office and the staff were pulling every discussion that's ever been had about burning so that everyone can be briefed before we actually bring it to the committee. But for example, if this committee decided, well, I guess that doesn't involve Springfield, so I'll use a different example. If you as a whole, as a committee, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, decide that you want to advocate for a bill, the next step is then to speak with leadership.
Correct.
And then leadership would issue a letter if they want to, correct?
Well, how can we come to the committee along with the committee? But,
It kind of depends on the timing.
yeah.
Right.
So if it's at the beginning, in the spring, when the legislature is just convening, then it would be a county board issue. But when you get to veto session, and things are moving very fast, and there is no time to go to county board, the practice, and I believe it's even in the county board rules,
Yes.
is
It
that
is.
if the chair speaks with leadership on both sides and they are in agreement, they have the ability to comment on behalf of the county as to what our position is. Because otherwise, there would be no comment at all.
Right, but that would be a verbal discussion.
That would be a verbal
Yeah.
discussion for the most part. It could, if there's a committee meeting in that time frame, include the entire committee. Yeah.
So as a group, are we in favor of being a part of their pilot program? Can we get a motion?
I'll take a motion.
Second there.
All those in favor?
Now, I would just hesitate in telling you that we don't have the language of the bill in front of us, or the amendment. So what you're doing is you're deciding that you
They're in
want to be
favor.
part of a,
Be included into the legislation.
but we don't know what the, I mean,
There's no requirement. We just be included. We can decide later, the county can say, we don't really want to do this.
are you sure that you can do that?
It's an
Yeah,
optional
We've
program.
also done too, the concept as it stands today,
Okay.
which allows for changes and then say, well, they changed it, now
We
we
don't
don't
wanna
want
be
to
in
be a
it.
part of it.
And don't you think though also that we should check with the CAC if they're interested in doing that? Do you know what I mean?
I thought Mary just said they did a letter.
Well, I'm not sure if it's letter, I think there's communication from the state's attorney's office and the CAC. It might be phone calls, I heard conversations, but and I have not read the legislation, but my understanding is it would do what you have said, is that allow jurors to donate their juror pay to the CAC. It's
That's what I
not-
read.
it's-
I mean,
yeah.
there's no mandate.
Now, right, so, I mean, we can review the legislation, I'm assuming the vote is based on the representation of that's what the bill says. If the bill says something different, then you don't have support in this committee.
No, exactly. And in all honesty, a juror could do that now.
They could.
There's nothing in the law. I mean, I can take my paycheck and do whatever I want with it.
Sure.
Right, and so that's why I just wanted to make sure that we knew exactly what, if it's
I think it
in,
would just be it would allow
Structure.
them, yeah, and so that rather than issuing a check to that juror, it would go straight to the
Right.
CAC.
Yes,
is
there's
what we
some
have.
sort of format for that to happen. Mike's here, and you're on the board of the CAC.
Yeah.
Can you speak for them? Do you think they'd have a problem?
No.
I'm guessing free money is free money.
Right.
Be a whole line, but yeah, if a little bit helps.
Yeah, I'm sure the program is just an instruction.
All right, and as leadership for the Republican caucus, are you in favor of this?
All good.
Jim?
I'm in favor.
Okay, so I just need to talk to the Democratic side.
Jackie, I just have a comment regarding this. How do we let individuals know that they can contribute or donate their money to the CAC?
This would be something for the CAC and
Who
the
determines-
chief judge to work on in terms of the jury room at the new courthouse, setting up a quick video, or even just handing out a flyer, whatever.
So
Yeah,
it'll-
those are details.
So this will just be a detail to be completed beyond this.
Assuming it even, passes.
Shouldn't pass.
I mean,
Right.
yeah, it doesn't cost the county any money. It's, people just donating their money. I mean, nobody gets to regulate where I put my money except for me. And all this allows for is for promoting it, I assume, on county property. That would be my guess. Doesn't, make us responsible for anything in terms of funding anything. So,
And they have some on the administrative side, it might have a step.
possibly, yeah. But, okay, so we're in favor of doing that. That's wonderful. State agenda. We had a meeting, just one. Didn't get too far with some of the leadership. I just wanted to see if there was anything more from our group. I did email the chairs of all of our committees, asking them if they had something that they wanted to see make it to the state agenda. I also emailed all the county-wides, asking them the same thing, if they had anything they wanted added to the legislative agenda, if they wanted changes made. The only thing I've heard so far is from Tyler, who chairs land use. I think he's going to have something for us. And then Julie, your light went on. Judy, the issue with the drainage district, so.
Well, the drainage, I put the drainage district, the gas taxes,
Yeah, oh yeah, the
and
gas.
then when Julie is done, I have something that
Okay.
the office said.
Go ahead, Julie.
Okay, so I wanted the animal control, the communication added. and I
We
see
wanted
it
to
there.
know about that, so we talked
Yeah.
about it. It's on our list,
Okay.
but none of us could remember exactly what you were talking about, and we just kind of drew a blank. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you volunteered to admit it was you.
Okay, so what the problem is that the systems are not linked. So often, if the sheriff goes in and has a call on a property regarding an animal control issue, that not all of that information is communicated to the animal control officers. So sometimes they're going into this situation blind. And so what I wanted to do was to look, and we talked about this at our IT ad hoc meeting as well, about integrating those systems. So if animal control goes out there, they're aware of a past history, and the same with the sheriff. Because we know that sometimes if the issue is of an animal with a history of being aggressive, we want our officers to be safe. So there is an IT, a lack of communication there, and that's what that item was to address.
Why would this be on the state agenda? It sounds like
Yeah,
more an
I don't know.
internal and
So-
It
IT
is.
problem.
So what
issue.
no, I don't think so.
Oh,
I think the
okay.
issue is that the people who are, and maybe Brian knows, that the people who are animal control officers are not the same as our sworn officers, and they don't have access to the same same information or what, I think I recall that being said.
But is that a state legislative issue?
No.
I didn't think so. So that's why I'm
No,
wondering why it's
I
here.
think it's a state legislative thing, I do.
If we're called
Ryan,
in
come on up,
reference,
honey. Don't stay out there in the cold. Come on up. We need more heat.
If we're called in reference to an animal complaint, like a dog bite or whatever, we fill out the form and get it to animal control and give them a copy of our case
Oh, so they
report.
know.
But
So
are
they
doing
would
it-
be made aware
Are
of the
they doing it the other
situation.
way though, Brian? That's,
That I don't know, no.
What was your question, Mike? I didn't hear you.
are they doing it the other way? If animal control goes to a
They
facility,
report to them.
and do they report to the police so that if they have to go later, they know there's an aggressive animal there?
Question. Does the animal control officer have a gun?
No.
No.
They do.
Okay, so my
But they do carry
recommendation,
mace and some other
so,
things.
Yeah, but but I'm saying
And they
if
don't have
animal
to
control
go.
has a problem, they don't necessarily have to, I'm just not seeing the urgency to convey it to the sheriff's office since you have more ways to defend yourself against a potential situation.
Right, if there's a house full of aggressive animals, we're gonna call animal control out anyway,
Right.
you know, unless they're chasing after us.
Based on my conversation with them when I went to there seems to, I don't know how frequently, a breakdown. I'm sure.
And so
If that
my
is the
recommendation
case.
was that we just sit down together, figure out where that breakdown is.
Absolutely, that
and
would
get that.
not be an issue. We can
Yeah.
get our ITs together and see.
That would be wonderful
Give them
because we
access
want everybody safe.
Yeah.
And whether or not, I understand that they can't be in your system and retrieve your files, but somehow we need to make sure that, we know that these situations can turn out very badly. So we want to assure that they've got all the knowledge they need, because usually with animal issues, there's more than one issue until it escalates to something we want to avoid, so.
well, I'm glad I had a question first. Go ahead.
Actually, I have a question. I just wanted to let Julie know I sit on the ETSB board, which is the Emergency Telephone System Board for the county. I'm happy to ask them at the next meeting or even before then if they're aware of any communication issues that way that they can be of any help with.
That's a good idea. Mary?
And they work with all the
Perhaps it's not just the sheriff either. There are a lot of municipal police departments that may be responding to animal control issues, and the county does cover animal control in some of the municipalities.
So, but Brian says anytime they are called and there's an animal issue, paperwork gets sent to animal control.
That's correct.
Let me ask a question. Say the Bolingbrook police get called. Do they send something?
That I don't know. I can't speak for Bolingbrook.
Okay.
So that
Nick?
may be where the
That might be
issue
the
arises.
breakdown,
Yes.
is a municipality. Nick?
I mean, what this sounds like to me is the record keeping and communication. I mean, this is an ongoing, continuous quality improvement as far as communication. I mean, with, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is almost like a leads, but also record keeping and things like that. Animal control doesn't have this, as we've already said, access to the same records that law enforcement does. But I think we should bring animal control in here maybe and talk about how that works. I mean, if it involves state legislation, it's if you're going to require it, require communication, but that to me falls into the category of funding and unfunded
Yes.
mandates. Because we've
And
got,
we don't need any
a whole
unfunded.
list of those, but I mean, I guess, I kind of understand what you're saying, what Julie's saying, but I guess maybe we need to dig a little deeper on the nature of specific examples and what is being done or what could be done voluntarily.
Yeah.
Or, is it such a problem that we do need to require it? Because some groups aren't just going to do it because it's a staffing issue as far as record keeping. I mean, animal control has come a long ways as far as the record keeping, but they're still not as high tech as law enforcement as far as their record keeping. But I do believe animal control keeps track of bites and aggressive dogs, because when they go out, I think it's already been said, there's a lot of repeat offenders on that, but it would be helpful for law enforcement if they're going to know that there's an aggressive dog or dogs and vice versa. So, I mean, and I think you guys do work with animal control. If there's a real problem, like a dog fight or something, you go as a
Absolutely.
team.
We don't want the problem. We give it to animal control. control than animal.
Before you guys go together, right? I mean, because sometimes if there's a dog fighting, there's probably some aggressive people too. So it's like you want to have,
So you need both.
the dogs are handled by animal control, the people are handled by the sheriff.
Correct.
And Nick, you bring up staffing, so we need to make sure that animal control, when they go out on a call, that they can notify the sheriff in case you get called out to the same residence, and that procedure and that method is set up and it's effective and clear. Because at the event that was held, they had concerns and they did communicate
Julie,
that.
what was this event? Where's all this drama?
The animal event that
What animal
Jim
event?
had, trying to remember. Yes, it's on the tip of my tongue, the event he had.
Because animal complaints in general, from my experience, are very infrequent. You know, you will have the problem here and there. Even in the village of Homer Glen, they have a dog bite ordinance in place, but, I mean, you may get one of those a month.
Yeah, I don't know if we need a sledgehammer when a fly swatter will do.
Even in the county.
Mary, what were you saying?
So the state's attorney is working to create kind of a coalition of community organizations, law enforcement, animal control, humane societies to deal with, a variety of animal issues, a lot of which is neglect and abuse, but also would deal with the aggressive animals, and so that we can have a more comprehensive and coordinated effort in addressing these issues.
I think it's fine and dandy that he has the time and the resources to coordinate that. I think we ought to let him go right at it. Jim?
Okay, so, having been a dog catcher for 25 years.
Oh my God, really? A dog catcher? You're kidding me.
And Frankfurt Township did animal control.
Oh,
And
jeez.
it did it for the municipalities also. So when my dog got aggressive, he scratched through fence, I had to nail him, I couldn't run.
Did you use a sledgehammer or fly
the
swatter?
rules. But here's what I was going to say. First, you should look at the state legislation that's already there. Because, for example, all bites are reported to the county.
Yeah.
All bites.
Yeah,
Regardless where it happens.
right.
The county has the ability, if a dog is considered dangerous and vicious, even though on my tenure here, well, it only happened once, it comes to the county board to determine whether that dog can be euthanized or not.
Goes to court.
Well, it goes-
It's a court case.
Yeah, well, there's also, yeah, so there is processes, and the other thing I would say is, having done animal control for 25 years, and of course, with actually 4 different policing agencies in my township, there was really always good communication between the animal control folks and law enforcement. Because I think the animal control is considered part of law enforcement. So there is, just so you know, there is really good communication.
I would think so. Well, I just want to ask staff, can we
I just
get
wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, and I'd like the animal control people to come next month, please.
Your next meeting, you
Thank
can explain all the plans or
Yeah.
what kind of communication he has between municipalities.
Yeah.
And maybe explain the state regulations as well.
So Jackie too, and I'm pretty sure they can have access because they're not sworn officers.
Right, I don't need them to have access. Sounds like the sheriff's department does a really good
But they could
job.
get a report. They can get sent a report on a
Yeah.
daily basis that would get updated,
So
right?
we don't
Briefed
have
on
to
what
send the county
happened and kind of, the situation.
Correct.
So,
Then they
You
would
do
know.
that now,
yes,
right?
that's correct.
So,
We'll
yeah.
find out if it happens.
We'll find out if the other municipalities do it, and then, but I don't like sledgehammers when fly swatters work, and I don't think we need any more legislation that is going to require funding that we don't have. So we need to work it out locally and let Jim go to it and
Yes.
coordinate.
Well, we just gave up animal control, so the county had to take it over. And the municipality has a contract with the county.
Right.
But I can tell you, in all these years, there was nothing but cooperation. Never had a problem. I mean, because they talk.
Yeah.
I mean,
Of
the
course.
animal control person would say to, say, a deputy, watch it when you go over there, that dog is aggressive.
Right, that's what they do. They talk to each other.
Or in some instances, they might say that dog is border aggressive, not aggressive, yes, but but it protects its borders, you know. So don't go rushing into the yard.
When I was
outside the yard, so they communicate.
When I was in patrol, I had their numbers on my phone, so I could just call them.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, yeah. Mike, you got your light on there?
Once you're done with the dog stuff.
Oh, I'm so over the dog stuff.
I wanted to ask about the electric charging stations. I don't remember when they came up. What are we advocating for?
Like some sort of grant money, try to find
Grant
some,
money, okay.
you know, we're not talking about spending money, Mike, I promise. As a former finance chair, I know that.
Well, I mean,
Or both.
I'd like to see more charging stations,
Yeah.
but that seems to be,
Yeah,
so I'd like to see a gas station closer to me too, but I'm not going to advocate the state to do that.
yeah. No, this was looking to see if there was anything on the state level we could do to
Okay.
find some funds, grants. Julie?
I have a question for Mary, and this is regarding the legislation to have the taxes paid at the pump. At my town hall, Mary, we talked about this, and wasn't it shared that the state, Springfield, prevents us from doing that?
That was talked about
Yeah.
at your caucus, yes.
The town hall.
Not that it's paid, but that there's this itemized disclosure of the tax amount.
The state doesn't want that?
Who said that?
Of course not.
Of course they don't.
Well, was that an authoritative source that said that, or was that just?
A person.
That was, yeah, it was
Oh,
somebody.
somebody off the cuff.
But I don't.
Conspiracy
I
theory.
know that it's wrong, I haven't
Because
read
they-
the legislation with regard to disclosing it. A lot of people don't get receipts, so I don't know that it would.
Yeah, I don't get a receipt ever at a gas station unless I'm charging my employer, you know. Yeah, it's a waste of paper.
And
and
also
ink.
because the tax is indexed, they would have to change them, just so you know, every year.
Yeah.
They're gonna
We-
be, so they're probably gonna be
it's a
against it.
sticker.
They have to
It's a sticker.
inspect the pumps.
I'm just
every year,
saying.
too, and put a license on them.
Yeah, exactly. They're already doing other things at that pump every
And
year.
they could have the receipt printed out, whether there's no tax shown on the receipt at this point. So we have no idea who you're paying your tax dollars to or how much the taxes are
Nope.
on gas. They used to do it back in the 60s.
Back in the day. And this is why we brought it up and why we thought it would be beneficial. So that, you know, if the consumer knows what is actually going in to the bill. So that's still there. Load restrictions, we got some letters on that, although some people think that there's not going to be anything coming up. The county, what are the engineers? The National Association of County Engineers is very much opposed to any increase in truck size or weight. And although we don't have our highway guy here, Jeff's not here, I'm sure he'd be opposed too.
Wouldn't you be?
Yeah, our roads aren't made to take double trailers and all that nonsense, so.
The gentleman I met with regarding this, Matthew Muir, he indicated to me that he had been in contact with Jeff about these very things. So I would think it'd be as easy as saying, hey Jeff, you know, recap your conversation and, you know.
Well, I mean, this is one of the issues that's going to be in our legislative agenda unless, you know, the county board objects to it.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk at NACO over the last few years, because there are states that allow triples, and they talk extensively about the weights and all that other kind of stuff. We should be against that, because there are a lot of other issues that come with it too, the safety of just driving a triple or a double. And there are areas where doubles are, so, yeah. But there are states that allow that already, so.
But isn't the movement to go to 100,000 pound weight?
Yeah.
Is what it is. It's not, and by the way, we're already on record as opposing it. We can do it again, but we renew it, but we consistently oppose higher weight.
I think we should do it again just to make sure that it doesn't jump off somebody's radar. And then there's the e-cigarette ban, making it the same as regular cigarettes. And there was something in the SACO newsletter about that too. It's already been introduced. I don't know if it's going to make it through the veto session, but I'm trying to remember who it was. This one I did pay attention to.
Right, was that and vaping?
Yeah, vaping, that was, yeah. And then the flavored, here it is, Senate Bill 1864 would include e-cigarettes and alternative nicotine products. Oh, that scares me when they say that. within the Smoke-Free Illinois Act, prohibit vaping in a public space. I guess the patch doesn't produce any smoke, so I guess I don't have to get freaked out about that. But whenever they say alternative nicotine products, I get nervous.
And I wonder if that legislation is complete enough saying alternative nicotine, because the different packets they use that have THC, I don't know if there's any nicotine in it, so that would almost like, if it's illegal.
Oh, but they're saying they're saying,
Illegal, not be legal.
they're
It'll be
saying,
legal in January,
they're saying prohibit vaping in a public space.
It's
not
free
nicotine.
Illinois.
but not nicotine specific, because if it said nicotine specific, you'd be caught
No,
up.
it's just vaping, e-cigarettes and vaping.
You can't smoke anything, whether it's cinnamon or marijuana or it is.
Yeah, in a public place.
Well, she read nicotine,
Yeah.
so.
Well, no, it said and alternative nicotine products. They consider the vaping to be an alternative to nicotine, and they didn't want to they said e-cigarettes and alternative nicotine products. So, I mean, smoking a cinnamon stick would be an alternative nicotine product in theory, I guess. Just no smoking, period. No puffing on anything.
I like cinnamon. There's a bacon coming up, so. Don't we have a
And then we did
There are several vaping things coming up, not put on by our county board, one on the 14th, one on the 20th.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also, we got this from Jeff, the IACE State Road Fund has been cut by 75%. It's a historical fund and he wants that funding restored. Then from the clerk's office, reduce the printing of ballots from 110%, which, have we ever had an election in this country that 100% of the voters turned out? I mean, this is just stupid beyond stupid.
That's my goal.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy with 75. If we could get 75% of the registered voters, I mean, geez,
Maybe they took the legislation 20% above the highest vote.
ever historical turnout, yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. Beth Rice had put this voter list for ballots by mail on here, and we were discussing it, and it's unfortunate she's not here today. She had said she was going to get back to me on this, but she apparently got distracted. I guess her husband got an injury at work. She's involved with that. Work play, I'm not sure, but she's involved with that. I see our clerk is here. Could this have to do with the fact that they passed a law that says if they got a vote by mail ballot last time, they have to get one again this time?
That didn't pass.
It didn't pass? Okay, it was just discussion.
It's out there. I mean, there's legislation out there, but it hasn't been
And that
discussed
might be,
yet.
That might be what she meant by that. I'll get back with her on that. Senate Bill 2090, the jail voting, that's already been taken care of. That's passed.
It has passed, yeah.
All that is going forward, so we took that off the list. The gas taxes are on here. We're going to find out more about animal control at our December meeting, hopefully. What is the gentleman's name that you're going to invite?
Doc Shield.
Doc Shield.
We'll see him today.
Okay.
One to see him
Yeah,
today.
I think
One
so.
of the two of us.
Okay, all right. Anything new anybody wants added?
Yeah, so I think that we should look at the different road projects and things that the state has said they put in their capital bill and determine whether it makes sense. One of that being the new interchange at I-57, the Eagle Lake Road.
I know you're very much opposed to
If
it.
you drove out there, you would also be opposed to it because it's a complete waste of money. There's nothing at that intersection if you go either way. Nothing, nor does it go over the highway, or does it go over the train tracks, nothing. It's a waste of money when there are other more pressing needs. For the legislators out of Cook County to come out and say that this is what we need to have happen in Will County, when we have other pressing needs along I-57 that would be better served, or other state highways, I think that's something that we should have a comment on.
I appreciate your concern. I don't have a horse in that interchange race. What I will say, though, is that when they built the interchange at Weber Road along 55, people probably thought that was in the middle of nowhere and not needed. And clearly, the one at Route 53, they thought was in the middle of nowhere and not
Jackie, we
needed.
have an interchange at Moni Manhattan. We have an interchange at Peatt's Home. Both of those need to be improved. They're not, either one of them, safe enough for the local truck traffic at no need.
I don't
So
disagree
it's
with
not in the middle of nowhere. There are two interchanges very close to where Eagle Lake Road is. It's probably halfway, possibly in between the two.
And I don't know what their logic was, Judy.
I know what their logic is.
Well, I'm not going to speak for somebody else. All I would say is that I wish they would have planted another interchange along 55 near my town and made it a four-leaf clover, because now we wouldn't be having the problems we're having. A nice, safe four-leaf clover. But I see that Maura wanted to speak and Nick wanted to speak on this.
I'm sure we were probably going to talk about the same thing. You know, it's not something that we haven't been working on and trying to work with the eastern side of the county. We met with all the various
I know that, I've been in
mayors.
those meetings, correct.
And a recent meeting, you know, I mean, for one, the Eagle Lake that's a miss, like that's not the correct street.
So we keep hearing that,
I
yet
know.
if you look at everything, it says Eagle Lake Road, so if it's not correct, that should be corrected by somebody. It's irresponsible for anybody to have an incorrect thing. in
I think they're
legislation.
working on it.
I didn't know that.
Government is not fast usually. Usually.
They were fast at adding it to the capital bill.
Yeah, so I mean, I do know that the Eastern County wants to meet with IDOT to go over and do what's best for the county, and Nick can talk further on that, I'm sure.
Judy and I have talked about this quite a bit, and I
No.
just for the committee's sake.
Jackie, if you were out in my neck of the woods, it would
Oh,
be a
no, I'd
priority
be
issue for
probably
you.
pissed off as you
So,
are.
all
No
I'm
question.
gonna
You should be pissed off as well, because it's a waste of tax dollars. It's a waste of tax dollars when we have other pressing needs in Will County and the entire state as a whole, for them to come up with a pipe dream, the interchange to nowhere.
Judy, I don't
Everyone should
disagree
be
with
ticked
you.
off about
I don't
it.
disagree with you. That's why these guys have been meeting, leadership's been meeting with the mayor.
Can I just?
Yes, please.
Interrupted. So we did discuss this at Public Works the other day. Based on our internal staff meeting and with Jackie and Mimi, we engaged the committee. We said this is, I mean, I think Jackie and Mimi and others agreed, this should be, some of these issues should be vetted by the committees of substance too. So Public Works is going to look into not only that issue, but other issues. And we meet regularly with IDOT District 1, which covers the Chicagoland region. We're going to ask for further information, which we've asked before. They don't have a clear, absolute final plan on any of this stuff. That, I mean, it is, I don't like the process in the Capitol bill, because a lot of these things were thrown in at the last minute and it was rushed through, and there's a lot of lump sum dollars too that have yet to be formally allocated. And I think with all the other shenanigans that are going on, they didn't deal with this during the veto session, and they're not going to this week. This is going to be a trailer bill where they're going to have to clean up that stuff. And so I think Judy and I will do my best to get an answer for you and for the board. Is I think they're going to have to clarify that, and we can push for clarification so that we do know exactly what it's for. And all your concerns have been noted. We're going to communicate that to IDOT, but we've also discussed those with the municipality, which you've been a part of. And so we're going to keep working to find common sense solutions out there and try to work together. I mean, as far as the big projects, there's no formal position right now. So the airport, the Ileana, any of those big projects, we don't know. I mean, they haven't taken a formal position. We're trying to get an answer which direction they're going.
Right, and so what I'm saying is, we've had a discussion of all the different things that come up on ISACO, and whether we would support a bill or something like that. So this is part of the capital plan, and it's part of our conversation as to whether we should support it or not, and we should have clarification. It's in all the newspapers, it's on the media, and in the social media, it's everywhere that you see, they're talking about it. So clarification should be made, including the fact that we should have input into what also gets done in our county for safe roads, and for our legislators to be pandering to their voter base by putting this crazy interchange to nowhere on a bill is not really doing a great job of taxpayer funds, because taxpayers are paying. They expect everybody to be responsible with the dollars that you're paying. And so that's why I'm bringing it up. And if this was in anybody's district, aside from mine alone, because I'm the only rep right now for County Ward 1, but even my other rep would probably support me had she still been here. It doesn't make sense. And the mayors have said that they do not support anything that would further the airport. You know that, you heard that in the meeting.
Well, I've heard a lot of things
From various.
people say what they say in public, what they say in private, and, you know, I mean, the mayors are committed to finding this, and this is a purpose of these meetings, was to find a solution to the trucks that are in Eastern Will County, because you have 394 further east and 57 further west in those 6 townships, and trying to connect those routes with an agreed upon route, and we can invest the limited infrastructure dollars we have wisely and in a coordinated fashion. That's what we're trying to do across the county. But
Well, it sounds like you are. You're meeting with the mayors,
Right.
you're meeting with the county board representatives.
And we're meeting with
and
IDOT. But
nobody has spent a dime yet. This is just money that's like on a list
But
somewhere,
I
like
guess-
a wish list for Santa Claus.
guess the thing from the county's perspective, all the noise that's out there, why legislators, why county board members, why mayors, why they support stuff, they have to tell you. We're trying to work with what we do know, and I just want the board to understand that we have had better communication with IDOT than we've ever had before, as far as the level of commitment and the number of projects they're doing, and they are doing lots and lots of public meetings, and they've, I think, arguably been pretty responsive, so hopefully they're going to continue to be responsive on this issue, and we'll get some more information and bring it back.
Sounds wonderful. Mike?
I was just gonna say, it's 205 million that they're talking about using. If we didn't build that, they can give it to us, and we wouldn't have to have a gas tax for maybe 15 years. We'd have enough money to do all those projects.
Problem solved. There you
suggest that,
go.
but
Wonderful. Thank you, Mike. Julie?
When Jeff put on that awesome presentation to the community and to us regarding the motor fuel tax, he had a wish list. He had a slide with projects that need to be addressed in the future, and this money is better spent on those issues that have already been identified than this interchange to nowhere.
Well, I don't know if I would constrain it as a wish list. Those are all projects that come through in a very long process here, through our long-range plan, through our 5-year plan, which the board votes on all those. And they do come through a very filtered process that involves stakeholders and other groups. And the municipalities participate, the townships participate, the public
It's
participates.
not just Jeff's
So it's not a wish list, Julie. It's projects.
Well, I don't disagree with you, so I didn't mean it that way. But what I'm saying is there are projects that we would like to be able to address, and that money would be better spent addressing the projects that have been identified.
I
So
think that's what
maybe I
Mike
should
just
have
said.
that.
Mike just said that. So we've heard it and we understand. And Judy, I honestly believe that many people are working on this issue and that it will get resolved. Maybe not as quickly as you would have liked, but I do think it's going to get resolved.
No, Jackie, when we have a 5-year wish list, kind of, we still vote on every year, don't we?
Yes.
Well, I
You don't like the
okay,
project.
that's
Don't
okay.
use their term.
Plan. We still vote on
plan
it.
that you vote on.
But we still vote on it every year.
You and
Every
everybody
year.
else has
It is
Every
the
year.
plan.
Yeah,
It is
the
the
plan.
plan. And,
Well,
okay.
that word, the plan.
So we are not
I got
adding anything new to this. I have a couple of follow-up things to follow up on, and yes, Nick.
We will submit something formally, and one of these I just looked back and I realized it was the state rep that's no longer a state rep. But one of the bills that was introduced would have removed the county's authority to appoint our Metro representative, which hopefully that goes away, but that's a real concern. And
Was that Royal?
Yeah.
Oh, goody, goody.
So he's
Isn't
gone
it
now.
perfect
So,
timing?
but I don't know if there's others that would push that, but we appreciate and value, I think I speak for everyone, having our local control over who is our RTA, our Metro, our PACE rep, and we want to keep that because that is our seat at the table, that we have a voice. The other thing, just very quickly, and I'm sure everybody got this, but ASACO did distribute this earlier this year. These are just the 2019 state mandates. This may be something we talked about at the beginning of our state agenda of all the mandates, and we can recirculate this. But I think we talk about it in broad terms, and yet we continue to get a whole, I mean, there's 20, probably 30 new mandates that most of them are probably unfunded. And they may be well-intentioned or very good things that we would all agree to, but when they're mandates, we have to do them, hence the word mandate. And we've not had funding for them. So
Right.
I think we might want to drill down further in these because they don't seem to be slowing down
Good.
as far as the number of unfunded mandates. And I mean, the big one that we've dealt with and continue to deal with is the dispatch consolidation, which was a good thing, good intentions, but it's got a cost that's very real, and the challenges are very real for all those communities and organizations that participate in that. And there was no funding, formal funding component of that, so we should talk about that maybe as we go.
I agree. I get tired of them passing these bills that give us something to do, and they're not addressing the problems that they need to address that only they can control. So I'm starting to get the Jim Moostis, I hate Springfield tune going in my head. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you know.
Well, they mandate something to us, they take the credit, when we do all the work.
Yes,
They
exactly.
declare we have to dig a ditch, but they don't dig it.
Yeah.
We have to dig it.
And then they don't do the work they're supposed to do. So it's very frustrating. If nobody else has anything else for the good and welfare of our little group here, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Public comment.
Oh, public comment, public comment, public comment. I'm going to give some public comment, actually. I actually had some remarks I wanted to make. Actually, and what made me think of it was Mimi bringing up the issue of the refugees. I listened to a program yesterday on the radio, on NPR, National Public Radio, where our United States Senator Tammy Duckworth was down in Tijuana, Mexico, trying to advocate for veterans who defended our democracy that have been ejected from the country without access to their fully earned VA benefits. And I never had any clue that something like this was going on. There's actually a place in Tijuana, they call it the Bunker, where these GIs, ex-GIs, and their families are residing, as I assume they're fighting for their right to come back to the United States, but in the meantime being denied their VA benefits. And so sometimes I think we just forget all the different people that contribute to our democracy, you know, when they're not in front of our face wearing a uniform or
Jackie,
a pin.
the issue with that was that these particular veterans had committed a felony, and for that reason, and that was the reason they were deported, so that's the issue. And, you know,
We have
I mean,
people in our country that commit felonies every day.
But I just wanted to mention that, because that was an important part of
No,
the...
And they
No,
still
they
get
think-
VA benefits.
There's also a law that says that they've served in the military for a certain period of time, that they become citizens.
Yes, and
So, you know, they're-
they should have been made
they're-
citizens. And I personally am witness to a veteran that served our country in the Iraq War and the Afghan War, who ended up having to pay an exorbitant amount of money to become a citizen, even though he was supposed to be given that citizenship for free. So sometimes our government doesn't do things properly. And I think we just talked about that.
There's two sides to that.
Now we're talking about the federal government. But at any rate, I do think that, you know, we just don't recognize the sacrifice of the veterans and the people in their families often enough. And so that was my public comment. Anyway, thank you all. We've done public comment, we've done shared comment. Motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?